Have you ever seen one of those TikToks or Reels or YouTube Shorts or whatever you kids use nowadays, where you see this aesthetic shot of a random place in Japan and you thought to yourself, damn, this place has so much vibes to it. But have you ever stopped to think about what are those vibes exactly? Like, why is there a photo of a literal convenience store in front of Mount Fuji being labeled as the greatest piece of art since the Mona Lisa? Imagine if this were a 7-Eleven gas station in the middle of Nebraska. No one, and I mean no one, would bat an eye. The difficulty of describing what those vibes really are is the same reason why it's so difficult for me and a lot of other anime fans to explain why we love watching Iyashige, or slice of life anime. I love watching slice of life anime, but more specifically, I love rewatching Yuru Camp over and over again. And yes, even though I could have used that time to apply for jobs, I felt that watching Yuru Camp was a more productive use of my time. Again, debatable. Personally, Yuru Camp holds an incredibly special place in my heart because of its vibes, you could say. And I think that in 2026, even in the midst of higher quality and more exciting shows like Solo Leveling or JJK, this slice of life gem continues to be one of the most unique, one of a kind, and one of the most valuable shows any anime fan can watch. In its depiction of the ups and downs the girls experience during camping, it sweeps me off my feet with a sense of nostalgia for bygone days and leaves me with an aftertaste that inspires me to step outside and make fresh memories like the girls in Yuru Camp. One thing that's really incredible about this show is how it taps you into this instant sense of nostalgia. In other words, I'm sorry to break this to you, but it essentially nostalgia baits you. I promise it's better than it sounds. What makes Yuru Camp so brilliant isn't that it shows this perfect postcard version of the outdoors, it's actually the exact opposite. The show completely embraces all the clumsy, annoying highs and lows that come with trying something new. If you've ever been camping, then you know what it's like. Struggling to pitch a tent in a sudden gust of wind, realizing you forgot a crucial ingredient for dinner, or just shivering through a freezing night because you totally misjudged the weather. But then, you get that steaming cup of ramen and a gorgeous sunrise, and suddenly every single struggle was worth it. It's exactly the same for the girls in Yuru Camp, and whether it's watching them rock up to a campsite only to find out it's closed for the season, or just soaking in the simple joys of sitting by a campfire on a winter's night, you find yourself experiencing the entire emotional arc of going on a trip through this anime. When you go on a trip with your friends, with your family, or even just with yourself, it's almost always a guarantee that you'll have to go through some struggles, and things don't exactly pan out the way they're meant to. Just like these girls, trips are always filled with missteps, from misjudging the freezing temperatures, to dead phone batteries, to getting lost on your way there. But it's all part of the experience we all share, which is part of the reason why this show always gives me this wave of nostalgia. Yuru Camp understands that along with the picturesque memories we hold onto, it's also the detours and the flooded tents and winter disasters that we hold closely to ourselves. Okay, maybe not the last two, but you get my point. But just like how every trip needs its postcards, Yuru Camp is undeniably filled to the brim with these picturesque moments. One of my favorite things about this show is how every trip feels like an invitation to the viewer to explore somewhere new. Whether the girls are making a spontaneous stop at a roadside bathhouse or a small local restaurant best known for serving the most delicious curry in town. Each stop gives you a taste of the local cuisine, culture, and people in these tucked away tourist spots that rarely get the spotlight in Japan. While the series as a whole might be a plot by the Japanese government to increase its tourism economy, when you watch these breathtaking shots of Mount Fuji or the colorful sunrises, even on a screen, it's hard not to be reminded why Japan has become such a coveted travel destination in the first place. Most people remember Yuru Camp because of its beauty, but it's important to realize that those moments work because of everything that comes before them. After all, landscapes aren't what makes those scenes meaningful, it's who we're experiencing them with. Or in Rin's case, the peace she finds experiencing them alone. In a modern era where some of us are Discord mods with no social life or are apart from some of our friends, family, or partners due to life circumstances, Yuru Camp embraces the idea of being alone. Lucky you. While it isn't all that uncommon to see the stereotypical arc of an introverted main character coming out of their shell because they made an extroverted friend, what surprises me most about Yuru Camp is its refreshing take on the idea of introversion. A lot of introverts in anime are depicted as extremely socially awkward and shy. Some examples of this would be Komi from Komi Can't Communicate, Bochi from Bochi the Rock, and Kuroki from Watamote. And while this isn't the case for every single anime out there, this shy and socially awkward personality is a stereotype that applies to a majority of them. But Rin Shima isn't like them. Quite literally, she isn't like the other girls. Yeah. For all the times the girls spend camping together, Yuru Camp dedicates just as much attention to Rin's solo adventures. Some of my favorite moments in the series are simply watching her ride through the countryside, taking in the scenery, setting up camp, and enjoying the quietness. There's something almost meditative about it. The show understands that being alone isn't always something to be escaped from. Sometimes it's exactly what you need. What's especially interesting is how this idea is reflected in Rin and Nadeshiko's relationship across both seasons. At first, the story largely revolves around Nadeshiko and her friends entering Rin's world. Through them, Rin gradually discovers the joys of sharing her hobby with other people. The warmth of a campfire is nice, but it's a little different when you have someone sitting next to you. What I love though is that the show doesn't just stop there. Rather than treating group camping as the obvious correct answer, Season 2 turns the idea around and explores what Nadeshiko can learn from Rin. Inspired by her friend, she eventually decides to take a solo camping trip herself and discovers the appeal of it firsthand. That's what makes Yuru Camp's portrayal of introversion feel so refreshing. In a lot of anime, the introverted character is presented as someone who is lonely, socially awkward, or in need of fixing. Their arc is about learning to be more outgoing. Rin, however, is different. She's perfectly capable of making friends and spending time with others, but like some of us, she also simply enjoys her time alone. More importantly, the people around her respect that. Nadeshiko and the others never pressure Rin into becoming someone she's not, even when they're camping together. They give her the freedom to explore on her own, ride ahead, or spend time by herself if that's what she wants. The show never treats her independence as a character flaw. As someone who finds a lot of comfort in having time to myself, I really appreciate that. Yuru Camp understands that being alone and being lonely aren't the same thing. Friendship is important, and the series celebrates that throughout, but it also recognizes the value of solitude, and that's something you don't see nearly often enough. In today's world, maybe because we're so exposed to the pressures and harsh realities at every stage of life through the internet that we can't help but keep chasing success. That's why I've come to appreciate those rare moments where you can just simply disconnect from all of it. To stop worrying about school, work, responsibilities, or even what time it is, if only for a little while. Maybe Yuru Camp really is just a bunch of girls going camping, yet for whatever reason, it's what I keep gravitating to the most. Yuru Camp isn't a particularly complex show. Its characters aren't the deepest, and its story isn't trying to reinvent the wheel. But from its intricately recreated campsites, to the warm sunsets, to its gentle soundtrack, Yuru Camp excels at what slice of life anime do best, making you sit back and just forget about everything else for a little while. But beyond just helping me relax, what really stuck with me about rewatching Yuru Camp was that just watching these girls take themselves on these calm and peaceful trips made me jealous enough to want to do the same. And so I did, which admittedly is a lot easier said than done when you're stuck in 90-degree heat. When things get overwhelming, it's surprisingly easy to convince yourself that you should just stay where you are, that going out, trying something new, or even stepping outside for a while isn't worth the effort. There are days when everything feels heavier than it should, and motivation doesn't really show up on its own. But something about the way Yuru Camp frames those decisions, like taking a trip, learning how to set up a tent, or riding out somewhere new, those moments don't try to change your entire worldview or fix your life, and maybe it's because of the vibes of the show, but it makes you want to do the same, to get outside and experience that calming sense of peace in nature for yourself. And that's what stuck with me the most. The phrase "seize the day" is used as the second opening to the anime, and for a show that convinced me to drag myself outside and hike in the glaring sun, it couldn't be more fitting.